and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you. We've got the people of the tube. Hope you're well today. Hope you're feeling grand and all's well in the world. I don't know what quite happened to my voice in hello, but it happened. Anyway, people of the tube, it's a very Valve-y video today, which is very rare on this channel, but here we are. So, may I introduce you, people of the tube, to the Fender Twin amp. Not the Fender Twin. This is the Fender Twin amp. This is a kind of like a different model, kind of with the same name, but not quite. This is a 3-channel, 100-watt, 212, full valve Fender monster tone machine that weighs more than a herd of stampeding elephants. It's the weight of this amp mind blows me. I can't actually lift this without basically breaking everything in me and having 7 hernias all at once. It's so heavy. If you come across one of these things, you'll know what I mean. But it's an amazing amp. It's absolutely an amazing amp. I forget exactly when these things were made now. I might just quickly look that up. But this is amazing. I say you got two 12-inch blueback Fender speakers. I have no idea what's going on my phone. It is having an absolute fit recently. No, my phone is no longer working. Garbage. Anyway, so yeah, regardless of that technology that doesn't work, this is technology that does work. So, you've got 2 inputs, you've got DI out the back, you've got an effects loop, you've got bias things on the back, which is nice, they're not inside the amp, so you can actually bias this amp from the outside, which I don't think technically works, because I bet you need the chassis out, but it's nice to have it there. Changing the bias on the fly, I don't think it'd be the best idea. But anyway, it's full of valves. I think there's like 12 valves in this thing. Huge spring reverb. It covers the entire bottom of this cab. It's a huge spring reverb, Accutronics tank. 2 huge transformers left and right, and that's where the weight comes from in this amp. It's ridiculous. I think if I was to gig this, I think what I would do is I would have somebody break it up. So have a 212 cab and the head separate, because together it's so heavy. It's almost it's almost unmovable. It's ridiculously heavy. It's say 3-channel amp. On the clean channel, you basically have volume, treble, bass, middle. On gain channel 1, you have gain and volume, treble, bass, mid. And on gain 2, you got the same thing as well. It technically is like a shared gain channel, so you got like gain 1 and 2, but basically basically takes your gain 1 and just adds more gain to it, if that makes any sense. But that means you've technically got 3 channels of gain there. 3 channels, basically. So you've got clean, OD1, and OD2, basically. You do have a master section on this amp. You've got a master volume for your effects loop. I really like that. It's really cool. So if you're plugging the effects loop in, make sure you do have the volume up, otherwise you won't get any signal. Obviously the reverb there, it's a stunning reverb, people of the tube. It really is. Like I say, the tank in the bottom of this thing is huge. If I remember correctly, I think it's valve-driven reverb, but again, I could be wrong. I don't actually know. You got a global presence control as well, which is very, very nice. Just adds a little bit of sparkle onto the top of the amp. Other than that, it's just a beast. Oh, there is a switch on the back as well, because it's 100 watt. There is a switch on the back to knock it down to half power, although that's still absolutely deafeningly loud. This isn't an apartment amp. This is a full-fledged gigging amp, this one. This doesn't really do quiet. I had the intro jam was on 2. The volume was on 2 of this, and bearing in mind 1 and 1.5 is off. So basically, it's just on its lowest volume, and that's loud. It's still loud as it is, and it's on half power as well, people too. So bear that in mind. But these are fantastic gigging amps. They really are. I knew somebody. I was in a band actually with somebody who had one of these, and it was, considering how he abused the hell out of it, I was amazed of how robust it was and how well it dealt with the punishment. You know, there was no use of the standby switch. There was no kind of like care given to the valves or the condition of the amp, and it worked really well. So that's always a good sign, you know. Obviously, valves are going to die; they're going to blow, but the ones in this one seem okay. So, usual thing, people tube. I'm just going to plug that. You heard the intro jam. This thing takes pedals so. I'm convinced that Fender make the best pedal platform amps in the world. Well, the most stress-free pedal board amps in the world, because every time I plug into a Fender amp, it takes me no time at all to get the sound I want. It's just there in 5 seconds flat. Some amps I've had to mess with for a bit longer. But Fender amps, every time I plug into a Fender amp, it just takes no time at all. They're just so good. The clean channels are so giving to anything you want to throw at it. You know, distortions, modulations, you know, anything you want to throw at the clean channels. They just love it. They just lap it up. And they just give you back exactly what you want. So, and this is no exception. It just sounded... I think I worked to getting my sound on this amp for literally 5 seconds, PureTube. It was literally simple as. What happened was I turned all the bass all the way off, because I don't really use bass on amplifiers. And I turned the mids all the way to 10, because that's... If a Fender amp's got mid-range dial, I always turn it to 10, so that was immediately what I did. And then what I did is I was playing with the presence on all the way down and the treble all the way down. Then I brought the treble up to where I wanted it, which on this amp was on 6. And I thought I can add a little bit more sparkle to it with the presence, so I brought the presence up to 6 as well, and that just gave me the sound I wanted, and that was it. I was away, and it was easy as that. It was ridiculous. So, like I say, what I'm going to do now, PureTube, I'm going to unplug the pedal board, and we're just going to go into it, straight into it, with a load of different guitars, and let you hear it. We're micing today with just the SM57, straight into the Zoom, and yeah. We'll try and get as many different tones out of this thing as possible. There's a lot of gain in this as well, PureTube. And it does come with a three-way foot switch. Unlike some amps, modern amps today, where it's an optional extra. This actually came with a foot switch. And I do have it, but I'm not going to use it today. I just don't really need to use it. The foot switch basically takes you from clean to distortion, and then from distortion to more distortion, and it also turns off and on the reverb. So, it's super cool. Does exactly what you could go to a gig with just this and you could cover your basses really easily. Literally cover the basses though, because this is that loud, it would just destroy everyone in your band, basically. You're never not going to be heard with this thing. It's great. It really is great, but my god is it heavy. Anyway, shut up Dave, let's make some noise. Okay, PeopleTube, there you go. There's some tones for you from the Fender Twin Amp. These things are amazing. Now, I'm a bit in love with the sound of this amp. It's amazing. I don't think I prefer it to my Deluxe. I was just telling Queenie about that. I was playing through this and I was like, I think I prefer my Deluxe to this amp. I might do a shootout between this and that in the future. I don't know when I'll get round to it, but I might do a shootout between this and the Deluxe at some point and see where we are with it. This amp's not going anywhere very fast, so it's fine. But yeah, so I don't really know what to say. I really like the clean channel and the gain boost you get on the clean channel. The first sound you heard with the Strat was basically the second channel, if you will. It's basically what it does. It just kicks a little bit of gain on top of the clean channel. And then obviously, yeah, with things like the Les Pauls, you heard the distortion channel channel 2 here. The reverb in this thing is to die for. It's such a lovely spring reverb. It's insane. The presence dial is amazing. My gravy lord, is that thing hot. But yeah, stunning amp. But does have its downsides. It weighs an absolute ton. it is full of valves as well. I mean, if this amp died, it's not going to be cheap to get this thing revalved. It's just not. There's 12 of them in there. There is 4 power amp and yeah, there's 8 preamp. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so there is 4 power amp and there is 6 preamp valves in it. And again, I do believe it is a valve-driven reverb. It's just an amazing thing, and it does so much stuff. It won't go into like metal territory or anything like that, but it does, like, you know, your gorgeous sparkly Fender cleans. It does kind of like the Stevie Ray Vaughan blues kind of Texas kind of tone. It'll do classic rock, no issues at all with that second channel. It'll do things like Peter Green. It'll do so much. I mean, like I say, it won't do any high gain stuff. Well, it would if you had, you know, high gain pedal. I'm sure it'd love it. But just going into the amp, it doesn't do that kind of thing. It's on the gain dial on the second channel. There's just kind of enough, you know what I mean, for classic rock, and just it's just a lovely amount of gain in this thing. But yeah, it sounds amazing. The speakers are great. I've got it tilted back, by the way, PureTube, on its little metal legs, which I'm blown away how they support this thing, because it weighs, like, say, more than this house. You know, it's on the second floor of this house, and I'm a bit afraid of that, because I'm afraid it'll just go one day through the floor. It's so heavy. But a great amp, great amp. It's lovely to actually finally spend time with this as well. Like I said, I've been in quite a few bands where other guitarists have had these, and I've never really actually played for it, but I've always thought they sounded good. And I do believe we had one in Old Hat as well, but I don't ever remember playing through that one, to be honest with you. But it's nice to spend a bit of time with it, and again, it's an absolute monster. It really is great. Great amps, but again, so heavy. I've got to move it back after it's cooled down. Yeah, I don't know what to say for YouTube. Like I say, it's so loud. Again, that's another thing as well. That is that could be a down. If you're after something for your house or recording, this you know, unless you've got a recording studio, this isn't really for you. It's loud. That was on low power mode, and I only had read volumes between 1 and between 2 and 3, 1 being off, and it was just absolutely deafening. Queenie was downstairs, and she said even with the door shut, and these are big heavy wooden doors, she said it sounded like the door was open. It was that loud, and yeah, I can attest to that. It was. So bear this in mind. But again, as a gigging amp, sorted. And again, they are really rugged. They do really, you know, they take a beating. These things do. They're really good at that kind of thing. They're very reliable, I've got to say. Consistency on tone's pretty good as well. This doesn't sound quite the same as it did last time I plugged into it, but it's pretty good. You know, it's not bad. It's to be expected though. You know, you have fluctuations with these things. Anyway, PureTube, hope you enjoyed this video on the Fender Twin Amp 100 watt Tuba 12 full valve combo. Like I say, if I was to gig this thing, I think, like I say, I would get somebody like my friend Andy from FA Guitar Cabs to split this, so I'd a head and a cab, because carting it around in one is a bit much. So I think I'd be very tempted to get somebody like Andy to build me a head box for it, and shove the head and the chassis in that, and then have the cab separately, just to break up the load. Because together it's an absolute behemoth. It really is. I forget how much these things weigh, but it's a lot. Pretty sure it's heavier than I am. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, PureTube. If you like the videos I do on this channel, please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. Links to that down there. It's what keeps this channel going, is what gives me the ability to do this. Yeah, other than that, there's also links down there as well to my music page, my Bandcamp, where you can go and listen to my music. Other than that, PureTube, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and this thing rules the day. It's a great amp. It really is. I cannot deny how good this thing sounds. I really can't. It sounds great. And it's a proper Fender sounding amp as well. I know that sounds a bit of a stupid thing to say, being a Fender, but I have played through some Fender amps in the past that don't sound like Fenders. This one does. It's just got all that Fender charm you'd ever want and need in a very heavy, not very small package. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching, and goodbye now. Thank you indeed.